The GDP formula is a core concept for many different economic concepts, and that is largely because GDP itself is very important in the economics field. Now, looking at the formula at a glance, you can see that it's actually very straightforward, simple, it's just a little bit of basic addition. GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product, and it is often represented by Y depending on your textbook. Gross domestic product essentially measures the market value of all of the goods and services produced in, we'll say, a country. Now, typically, this is within an annual period. They'll do the gross domestic product for 2026, for 2025, and so on and so forth. However, it is possible that depending on the company, depending on what you're measuring, you might just use it for 1 quarter or a different amount of time, maybe the month. Now, GDP is made up of 4 basic principal concepts. Number 1 is consumption. Consumption is people like you and me buying things. I go to the store and I buy a bag of chips. That is part of my consumption. I go and I buy my dog a new leash or a new collar. That is part of consumption. Investment, you can kind of think of that, even though both people and businesses invest in things, investment is generally understood to being more so the business side of things. The investments that businesses themselves are making, the investments that firms are making to make themselves grow. G stands for government spending. Now, government spending is, if we had to pick one that is more complicated than the others, it probably would be government spending, just because it has some more rules to it. Because when you think of a government, it's not necessarily just buying things. It has a lot to do with taxes. That's how they make money. They make investments. They have control over things that people and businesses don't. But G stands for government. It does not stand for the gross and gross domestic product. Finally, we have net exports. Now, net exports is by definition the difference between the exports and imports within a country. So the exports, the things that are built in one country and sold out to another, are positive. They add to the GDP. The imports, what is bought into the country from another country, subtracts from GDP. So it is a negative value. Now, what's interesting with net exports is that if you have a closed economy, as in you do not export, you do not import, then this would equal 0 and your GDP would just be what is on the left-hand side. However, in general, we accept that the GDP for an open economy is the summation of consumption, investment, government spending, and the net exports. Good luck with your studies, and I will see you next week.